Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
How are we doing?
Good.
Good.
I'm glad to hear it. Ah, a little stretch. Mm. I was running around Pinellas County today delivering religious school Hanukkah gifts. So that
Oh,
was
how
fun.
nice.
Yeah, that was a nice time.
Yeah. Sounds like an exciting week for Hanukkah that Temple has planned.
I hope so. Yeah,
It
like
really sounds good.
it looks good. We're excited
Yes.
about it. That's for sure.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, the weekend in particular is gonna be really nice. I think Friday night's gonna be great with the kids being involved in the service. Saturday that Havdalah, Hanukkah menorah lighting event should be fantastic. Sunday
Yeah.
is food festival, all that stuff that goes around with that. So there's a lot of good stuff happening. Plus, there's all these like programs and ideas that most we put out, but there's gonna be, as I was joking today, a few little surprises, a few little Easter eggs that we're going to throw into these things as well.
Good.
So I think all that's going to be pretty nice.
Great.
Uh, I'm really glad today I didn't have to run to the synagogue to do this class, so that's helpful. The Wi-Fi did not explode this week.
Yeah, that was crazy last week.
Yeah, so that's all copacetic. That's all good. And we can dive in to another cheery week of Job. Our forlorn buddy here is not going to have a good week of Job. It's still going to be a pretty rough go. We're going to do an example today of again, I happen to think it's so intriguing because it really is almost like a theological discussion, an argument, between Job and his three friends. And so Job's friends are going to present their argument as to, why what's happening to Job is happening. And Job is going to vehemently disagree. I'll put it that way. Like he is going to give his opinion, and he's not going to be so thrilled with his fair weather friends. And so that's what we're going to focus on today, is sort of that back and forth. We spoke last week of the pattern. So one of Job's friends speaks, then Job offers his rebuttal. Next friend speaks. Job again, comes back with an argument. Last friend speaks, and then Job comes back with one more argument. And this goes on for like 25 chapters, which we're not going to do today because that's a lot. We're going to spend 1 week on sort of this argumentation. Then we're going to take a little Job break next week for Hanukkah. And then we're going to come back the week after for the thrilling conclusion, so to speak, of Job. We're going to get to sort of the actual when God comes down for the conversation, and we'll see how that works. Okay, so that's our plan. We're going to jump right into the text this week. So I'm just going to share my screen, and away we'll go. If memory serves, we stopped right here at chapter 4 when we get the first argument of Job's buddies here. Okay. Oh, and Ben, it's bedtime for Benji, and he is not amused. I'm hearing angry baby screaming, which is only slightly distracting, but he is not amused at all. He's got some good lungs on him right now. Okay, chapter.
He's the youngest, right?
He's the youngest, yeah, 18 months old. Very determined to get his hands into everything and anything. And he's the only one that we had really that was a climber. The other two weren't climbers, but Benji's a climber, and I'm not enjoying it. He's just like getting on all the furniture and taking these like rather unsteady, death-defying leaps. And like climbing on boxes and climbing on chairs and just trying to climb on everything. And like he got onto a bookshelf part almost, and so not enjoying that so much. And he loves it because he's giving me these big grins of just laughing at me because he knows I hate it. And he's so happy just to mess with me. So yay. parenting.
Rabbi, he'll be happy when we have Kefli Eladim, plenty to climb in that.
Oh my God, he'll be thrilled.
Thrilled in that class.
Yeah, we actually bought him a little something that he can begin to sort of do that kind of thing, so that way he can get off my couch. So yeah, it's a good time. Okay, sorry for that little preamble, a little glimpse into the Lobel household. Let's dive into Job. Sharon, you want to start reading here for us with Eliphaz?
Then Eliphaz, the Temanite, said in reply, "Might one try a word with you, or would you tire? But who can hold back his words? You are always the one to instruct the many, to strengthen failing hands. Your words would pick up men who had fallen and firm up buckling knees. Yet now it is your turn, and you go faint. It has reached you, and you are undone."
It's actually a very interesting beginning, I think, because it brings up um, a couple good points. So Eliphaz, you can see how he's approaching Job, and it's cautiously. You remember last week he spoke about how the fact that Job, according to the preamble of this, is a man of some esteem, right? He's somebody who is a respected person in the town, and that's how Eliphaz sort of starts his remarks. Is that hey, I don't want to step on your toes too much, but can we chat a little bit about what's going on? Because I can't hold back. I want to help because you, Job, were always the one to help other people, right? You instructed the many. You helped strengthen them, pick people up who had fallen, whose faith was shaken. You were the one who would help everyone else. But wait a minute. Now, when you face a problem, you're falling to pieces, right? Now it's your turn to sort of go through suffering, go through trials, and you've sort of come apart. And so it's a little bit of a chastisement, is how I read it, as well. That hey, shouldn't you know better? You've counseled all these other people when they, have problems, but now Job, when you have a problem, you're a mess. What's happening to you here? How about you, practice what you preach in a way? If you preach to other people about how to get through their tough times, now you have, some suffering and you fall to pieces. Not really the most sensitive when we get to the end of it, and end of that part there, right? Because Job has helped so many people. And sometimes, you can be a great helper, but it doesn't mean that you don't suffer your own service as well, right? It doesn't mean that you can always handle everything that comes at you, right? Even if you are somebody who is a well-respected individual who helps others, it doesn't make you immune, from problems, right? And so Eliphaz isn't really being particularly sensitive here to Job, but he's trying to, I think, sort of get into what the problem is here and trying to find an entry into this. Debbie, you want to keep going here? Is not your innocence?
Okay. If not your innocent, your reassurance. Doesn't your righteousness offer you hope? Think now, what innocent man ever perished? Where have the upright men where have the upright been destroyed? As I have seen, those who plow evil and sow mischief reap them. They perish by a blast from God, are gone at the breath of God's nostrils. The lion roars, the lion. The lion's teeth are cracked, the lion wanders and finds no prey. Young lions scatter.
Indeed. Okay, so if
Can
you
the
know
print
what
be
all that
made any
means,
bigger?
if you know what all that means, you're better than I am at this point, because some of that is a little rough. It's poetic language, and so it's not your innocence, your reassurance. That part, I got. The idea of saying, hey, if you've lived a blameless life, if you're innocent, don't worry about it so much, right? You'll be fine. That should be your comfort, because where have you ever seen the upright have problems? Those who do the evil stuff, they reap what they sow. That you have this almost quite literally here. Those who plow evil and sow mischief reap them, and they perish from God. This whole lion part, poetic. I think it goes back to the idea that some of the language here is a little bit tricky. But the lion roaring, the lion roars. The lion's teeth are cracked. The lion wanders and finds no prey. Young lions scatter. I'm guessing that the lion is supposed to be God here. I'm not sure about the teeth being cracked. What that actually means in this context. And the lion wanders and finds no prey. I'm thinking means that if you're innocent, God's gonna look around and there's no, there's going to be no one there to receive any punishment if people do the right thing. But again, I'd have to look up some serious Job commentaries to get at some of this poetic language here that I think is a little bit. Plus, as I said, I looked at like 3 translations. None of them are very clear on exactly what this meant. The joys of poetic language. Okay, Sandy, you want to pick up from here?
A word came to me in stealth. My ear caught a whisper of it. In thought-filled visions of the night, when deep sleep falls on men, fear and trembling came upon me, causing all my bones to quake with fright. A wind passed by me, making the hair of my flesh bristle. It halted. Its appearance was strange to me. A form loomed before my eyes. I heard a murmur, a voice.
Oh, so he's having a little vision here. And again, the imagery here I like, So this is his friends. This is still Eliphaz doing his spiel, doing his monologue. Not really good enough for Fallon or for Colbert, but it's a monologue nonetheless. And he's doing a whole little spiel. A word came to me at night. I was dreaming, and I had this vision. But here it's a little bit more intense than that. That other people were sleeping, right? Other people were relaxing, having a good night's sleep. They had their cocoa before bed, when they had a nice sound sleep. But not him. He was sort of restless, fear and trembling came upon him. All his bones were quaking with fright. He's having a rough night. Maybe ate too much spicy food before bedtime, but he's having a rough night, tossing and turning, sort of feeling ill. And then it's almost like he had a sensation, the hair in his neck stood up a little bit because of having some sort of spiritual moment here, some connectivity here with something greater. Strange appearance, spooky and mystical. And then he hears a voice, and the voice is going to talk to him. Okay, Melissa, you want to pick up there? Tyler, how you guys doing?
Okay.
I'm ready. Can man be more righteous than God or purer than the one who made him? If God cannot trust God's own servants and cast reproach on God's angels, how much less those who dwell in houses of clay, whose origin is dust, who are crushed like the moth, shattered between daybreak and evening, perishing forever, unnoticed. See how their wealth wanders away with them, how they die without wisdom.
Hooray! Cheery stuff from Eliphaz, okay? So the first part here is interesting because remember, the big theological discussion is going to be who knows better, right? Does Job know better or does God know better? And, Job's friends are going to be giving him the ancient wisdom, right? Trying to explain to Job, hey, look, buddy, you're suffering right now, but it's apparently what God wants. And it's apparently because you screwed up something somewhere. This is why you're getting the zets. And so you're sitting here questioning God. How dare you? How dare you question God and God's providence? Because we, as human beings, can't assume that we're more righteous, or purer than God. Blasphemous, right? That doesn't work. We're the created. We can't be better than the creator by the definition, right? And at least in this world, right? So God is the one who formed everything. Who are we to question, what God is doing, and how can we aspire to a wisdom that's greater than God? This next sentence interesting, So, if God has beef, if God has troubles with his own servants, with the angels, so to speak, if the angels can get in trouble, right? If the angels can be called out on the carpet for their behavior, how much the more so us, human beings who are flesh and blood, who we dwell in temporary houses that eventually crumble, right? We ourselves crumble, right? Our origin is dust. And you know what? In terms of the divine plan, or maybe better said, the scheme of eternity, right? We're here for a little while, a moment, right? We're here for a blink when it comes to this great span of time. Are we any different than a moth, than a fruit fly, in this case, right? That we're here today, gone tomorrow. Not even, right? Wouldn't get a whole day here, shattered between daybreak and evening. That's it, in terms of the grand scheme of time. And for many of us, right, unnoticed. We're here for a short time, we do some stuff, then we're gone. And that's it. And then it had as a little extra Ecclesiastes sounding little piece towards the end, how it's like you had wealth, now it's gone. You're dead. Okay, the wealth goes away, and the wisdom that you accrued, that's gone too. And so it's all very, again, transitional, all very ephemeral. It doesn't last forever, right? And again, for Eliphaz here, he's really pointing out it's a short period of time we get to be on this earth. And so if we are comparatively to God like a moth, like an insect, how much the more so, can we not complain? Can we not sort of seek to understand God's ways? So Eliphaz gets to continue his very cheery speech, meant to pick up Job's spirits here. Again, in terms of his actual success, I think it's limited at best. Melissa, you want to pick up here? Call now.
Call now. Will anyone answer you? To whom among the holy beings will you turn? Vexation kills the fool. Passion slays the simpleton. I myself saw a fool who had struck roots. Impulsively, I cursed his home. May his children be far from success. May they be oppressed in the gate with none to deliver them. May the hungry devour his harvest, carrying it off in baskets. May the thirsty swallow their wealth.
Oh, what a nice guy. A nice guy, a good man. He's a little bit crotchety, a little curmudgeonly, this guy here. So, but it's an interesting passage. So Eliphaz first says, hey, look, who are you going to talk to if not us, right? You're going to call out to your friends. You got no friends. It's us. We're here for you, so to speak. You're going to turn to other gods. They're going to turn to other holy beings. You got nothing right now. Everything is bad right now, happening to you. You have no solace, so there's no one else you can cry out to. Then it moves on to more of a proverb-like statement, right? Vexation kills the fool, passion slays the simpleton. Okay, so we can get stressed, we can get angry, but eventually, it doesn't do us any good. We can get all stressed and agitated and get a bleeding ulcer. That's going to be it, right? Passion slays the simpleton. We can be really passionate and fight for something, but if we don't know what we're talking about, it doesn't get us anywhere positive. And so then he tells this delightful story from Eliphaz about this fool, right, who had gained success, right, who had struck roots. So this is a foolish person, a simpleton who, for whatever reason, was succeeding. This is so distasteful in Eliphaz's eyes, right? It does not work for him because the fool is not supposed to succeed. So Eliphaz does what he thinks is his duty, apparently, and gives him a little Yiddish curse. Gives him sort of the evil eye, gives him a little bit of that medicine here, right? And gives him some of this, and gives him this huge curse to make sure that he won't thrive in the future. He's a sweetheart, this Eliphaz. Oh my goodness gracious. And so, but that's what you see here, right? Because it is so rage-inducing, right? For Eliphaz to see God's will, what he envisions God's will is being subverted. And Job, remember now, epitomizes this. He epitomizes the idea of somebody, or at least he claims, right, to be the innocent person who suffers. So this is all very paradigm shifting. And as we know from, I think, experience and from history, paradigm shifts are not comfortable for people, right? It causes a lot of clenchy, angry feelings when the way we envision the world doesn't come to be, when our beliefs don't match with reality, when we're told that the way we are viewing things, when we are perceiving things, might just be incorrect, antiquated, something from a bygone era, that we're not with it, that we're not, in tune with how things really are. People get very worked up about it because, again, it's a challenge to their belief system, sometimes into their very core, right? And so Eliphaz and his friends right now, remember, they see their friends suffering, but but Job's suffering causes them to suffer, right? Because they're seeing Job suffering and going, ugh, like if he's the innocent person who is suffering, that completely transforms everything we know about the world, and that can't be right. Job has to be wrong. If Job is correct, their entire world caves in. If Job is wrong, right, then the world makes sense again. So they need Job to be wrong. They need Job to be somehow sinful. That we spoke about last week. They need this upright, morally righteous person, the one who does all the right things. And everyone knows this about Job. They need him to somehow be wicked. They need him, to be kicking puppies in his spare time that nobody knows about, right? They need Job to just be a wicked dude for their world to make sense again. Very interesting in terms of that dynamic, because he's their friend. They're supposed to have this relationship, but they want their friend to be wicked in order for their world to make sense
friends.
again. With friends like those, right?
Some friends.
Yeah, some friends. But their heads are exploding right now, and it's just chapter 5, so they have a lot more time for their heads to explode in this book. Gary, you want to pick up? Evil does not grow. You got to unmute a little bit for us. Let me get you here. There we go.
There we go. Okay, I'm in the wrong place here. Okay. Evil does not grow out of the soil, nor does mischief spring from the ground. For man is born to do mischief, just as sparks fly upward. No, I look to El and trust my affairs to the care of a God who makes things great beyond man's grasp and wonders beyond any numbering. Who gives rain to the earth and sends water over the fields? Who raises the lowly up high so that the dejected are secure in victory? Who thwarts the designs of the crafty so their hands cannot gain success? Who traps the clever in their own wiles? The plans of the crafty go awry. By day, they encounter darkness. At noon, they grope as in the night. But God saves the needy from the sword of their mouth, from the clutches of the strong. So there is, next line, so there is hope for the wretched. The mouth of wrongdoing is stopped.
There we go. You had a long run there, Gary. Thank you for that. That was a good bit of reading there. But you see the world. By the way, spoiler alert, but I think we also know the story. When we do get to God's part in all of this, God's going to sound a little bit like Eliphaz. God's going to sound a little bit like the friends every once in a while. When we get to the second half of this little speech here, that the first part here, hi Benji, that evil does not grow out of the soil, right? So evil doesn't come out of nowhere, right? That's what Job's friends are saying, right? So evil exists, but it doesn't come out of nowhere. It's us. We're the ones, who create evil. We are born to do mischief. Just as sparks fly upward, we ourselves cause problems, on earth. And so he says, I'm going to forget all about that. I'm going to look to El, right? I'm going to look to God, right? And basically say, God, take the wheel, right? right? I'm not going to worry about this stuff. God's going to take care of everything. Because God is the one, right, who does things beyond humanity's thoughts and beyond our grasp, miracles and wonders. And then we get into the whole sort of nature of the world, both literal nature and just how the world is supposed to work. God is the one who gives the rain and sends the water, who raises up the lowly, who thwarts the designs of the crafty, who traps the clever, right? Who causes good people, right, to win out, and the one who causes the wicked, who causes their defeat. And so that's what we have to hope in, is not our own knowledge, but in the surety that God is in control. God's going to take care of everything for us. It's going to be fine. And so, Job, you're sitting here all scabby and gross, with everything bad that's happened to you. Don't worry about it. Trust in God, and you'll be fine. Admit you did wrong. That's going to come a little later. But, they're sort of laying it out slowly for Job here, hoping he gets to that own conclusion. Because they're saying is, look, not how the world works, right? And we all know how the world works. The world works that if you do good, good happens, because that's how God operates. God makes sure that the ones who are righteous, they prevail, and the ones that are wicked suffer. So, ... parentheses, brackets, whatever. Therefore, Job, you've done wrong, right? They're not saying that outright yet, that's coming, but you've done wrong, obviously, because you are suffering. And now, Linda White, do you want to give a little read here? Let's scroll down a little bit for us. See how happy.
See how happy is the man who God reproves. Do not reject the discipline of the Almighty. God injures, but God binds up. God wounds, but God's hands heal. God will deliver you from 6 troubles. In 7, no harm will reach you. In famine, God will redeem you from death. In war, from the sword.
Okay, so a little bit, thank you, Linda. A little bit here we have some biblical theology here. This is going to turn into a little bit of later rabbinic theology that I don't love, but it's certainly part of the tradition. How happy the man is whom God reproves. If you don't get disciplined, right? If you don't know you've done wrong and are being told, no, 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 how will you know what's right, right? It's not love to let someone run around willy-nilly doing whatever they want, right? There has to be some boundaries. There has to be some sense of order and right? So it's a sign of love. It's an act of love and concern for God to give you a little smack, when you are going off the rails, right? When you're going off the road, God needs to steer you back, hopefully gently, but God needs to steer you back on track. And so when you're in that moment, don't reject it, right? Don't bristle, don't bridle, at God's maneuvering you back to the right path. That's what you're supposed to. That's what's supposed to happen. Embrace it, right? Embrace the constructive criticism, though perhaps here not so constructive for Job, right? But accept the discipline of the Almighty as, again, ... that realization, Job, you done screwed up. You done messed up somewhere, and that's why God's given you all this grief. But recognize also that, yes, God can give you the smack, but God can also give you a hug, right? God can wound you, but God can heal you. And here we get a little bit more proverby on this next part here.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
I just want to say that, when we refer to God as a parent, it reminds me of when we say about parents that discipline is love and love is discipline. It reminds me of that same theory.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely bound up here. Certainly, that idea is that a parent, cannot give complete and utter just freedom. As I had mentioned about Benji, you can't just let them just do whatever the heck they want. It's not going to end well, for any of the kids, right? If there's just no boundaries or structure or anything, right? Exactly right. So this is very much, God as parent, God as, it's actually, it's interesting that you say that, because it does imply that closer personal relationship, right? Because we're going to have different metaphors for God here, and this idea of the Almighty, sort of God, but it's also interpersonal. It's a close relationship in that description, right? That God's looking out for us. God wants what's best, and God's going to maybe use some methods we don't always love, right? But it's because God, cares, and God wants you to live your best life, Job. God wants you to be on the right path, which is why you're getting this reprove right now, this rebuke in such a way. 6 and 7, we get this like in the prophetic literature as well. It's just a way of saying like, how much the more so, right? God will deliver you from 6 bad things, also 7. But like God's able to help you out no matter what is going on. There isn't a problem big enough for God not to help you out. And then it gives you a little bit more of an example here that even in the worst thing, because remember, famine is one of the worst things that can happen from a biblical perspective. Because when there's no food, we all die. Like they didn't have big storehouses of Twinkies, somewhere else. If you needed a snack, you grow and you eat what you grow. And if you don't grow, you got a problem. And if the farmers don't grow and there's no crops, it's going to be a really big problem. So, but even in famine, right, God will redeem you, and in war from the sword. So God is going to protect you. Very much a Deuteronomical sort of vision of God, where you have this idea of God as the protector, as the shield. That if you do the right thing, again, God's going to come out and save you from problems. That God is going to, remember in Deuteronomy, we have that whole blessings and curses section of Deuteronomy, where it says, very explicitly, if you do the right thing, then the skies will open and there'll be rain, and you're gonna have like delicious food all the time, and you're gonna have offspring, your houses will be secure, and everything's gonna be puppies and fireworks forever and ever, and it's gonna be awesome. But if you don't do the mitzvot, then the sky is going to be like bronze, and nothing's going to come out of it. And there's going to be no rain, and everything's going to die, and it's going to be terrible. And it's a long run of unpleasantness that we have in Deuteronomy. But if you do, again, and this is very much not so subtly implying to Job, right, that, hey, can you do right, it's going to be good. It's going to be fine for you. And you're suffering, so Job, fill in your own conclusion. We're going to get a little bit more of this lovely theology from our friend Eliphaz here, and then Job's finally going to get his chance to rebut. Bonnie, you want to pick up here? You will be sheltered.
Okay. You will be sheltered from the scoring tongue. You will have no fear when violence comes. You will laugh at violence and starvation and have no fear of wild beasts. For you will have a pact with the rocks in the field, and the beasts of the field will be your allies. You will know that all is well in your tent. When you visit your wife, you will never fail. You will see that your offspring are many, your descendants like the grass of the earth. You will come to the grave in ripe old age. As shocks of grain are taken away in their season, see, we have inquired into this, and it is so. Hear and accept it.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for that. And so again, lots of blessings here. You'll be sheltered from the scourging tongue. I think that's a reference to Lashon Hara, gossip, people who slander you. So those who do that, no one will believe them. You're not going to have any problems there. There's going to be no fear when there's violence. You'll laugh. I mean, again, like it's really idealistic. You'll laugh at violence and starvation. Ha 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 ha. I'm going to be fine. Because I got my, all my food stored up in my silos, and I got my big fences, my big gates. I'm not gonna have any problems with other people attacking me anymore, or wild beasts. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be so good. It's like you're gonna have a partnership. You're gonna have a standing agreement with the rocks in the field, that aren't gonna block your crops from growing, and they won't hurt you if they're thrown at you. And the beasts of the field, they aren't going to eat your crops anymore. They aren't going to, give you any problems. The beasts of the field are going to hang out with you. It's going to be great. It's going to be like Narnia, and not a Jewish book, but also a good book to read. At least the first one. It's going to be fine. All the beasts of the field are going to hang out together. It's going to be lovely. You will know all is well in your tent. You're going to have peace and security in your home. We like that idea, of course, right, of shelter and of security, that feeling of peace. When you visit your wife, you will never fail. I'm not going to add on to that too much. I think we can understand what that means on that one. I think those lines. Because you will not fail when you're with your wife, you're going to have many offspring, right? You're going to have lots of kids. It's going to be fantastic. You're going to have lots of kids. Your descendants are like the grass of the earth. They're going to be plentiful and they're going to multiply. And you're going to live a long life in ripe old age, right? That's when you're going to die. Forget what's happening to you right now, right? But you're going to live a long life and you're going to die.
Oh,
go ahead.
Who's saying this part of it? The first part, the elephant was saying all of these horrible.
Yeah, we're still with Eliphaz.
He's saying he's done a 360 here.
Well, he's basically saying, look, if you do the right thing, this is what's going to happen, and there are bad times that God can bring as well when you do the wrong thing. But when you do the right thing, it's going to be awesome.
Now he's sounding like a friend.
Yeah, but that's what he's saying. He's saying, well, he wants Job to repent, right? That's going to come later. That verbiage, it's going to come later. Again, now it's a soft walk, right? He's not pushing it too hard. He's sort of tiptoeing around Job a little bit and trying to get Job himself to come to the realization. If you had a conversation with your friends sometimes and you want them to sort of have that realization, to have that aha moment, but you don't want to explain it to them because that's not as helpful sometimes. You want them to sort of come to it on their own and go, oh, that's right. Maybe I should stop, X, Y, and Z, as opposed to you telling them, don't do this anymore. Because sometimes when people hear that, they bristle, they buckle a little bit more, and now, so that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to say, Job, let's take a look and examine how the world works, right? Let's examine how it works. And if you do good, awesome, right? Look at all this fun stuff you're going to have and all this peace and security, all these kids, and you're going to die of old age. And you're not going to die of boils, scratching yourself with a stick, in the middle of the desert. That's not going to be your fate. So, as, grain, are taken away when it's their time to go, that's going to be you at a natural time, right? He's trying to explain to Job is that, you don't want to have an unnatural death. Unnatural death can be seen, as a punishment from God. You want to, live to that old age, have a natural death, at your season you'll die. And so ends off with this very, he's pontificating a bit, we know this, right? We've inquired into this matter, and this is so. This is how it is. Hear it, Job, my friend, and accept it. Well, if Job was going to accept it, it'd be a much shorter book. So Job is not going to accept it, as a matter of fact. Spoiler alert. And Job is going to disagree. Job is going to fire back a little bit in his own way about what his friend Eliphaz has to say. Any questions before we continue with Job's rebuttal?
I have one.
Yep.
Has Job admitted that he did something? I mean, he hasn't done anything.
Yeah, no, Job hasn't done anything. Job is maintaining his innocence, that he's blameless here, and so he feels like he is, hasn't done anything wrong. In fact, he's steadfast in that knowledge, and we, as the reader, sort of know that he hasn't done anything wrong because we found that out in the first 2 chapters, right? That Job is blameless, and even God admits it, and Satan, the adversary admits it. That Job is fine, Job is great, so Job is actually in the right here, and that's where a lot of the drama, the tension comes from, because we know the score, and Job believes he knows the score. His friends don't know it, and his friends don't know what's going on and don't understand what's going on. Neither does Job, to be fair, but Job is also very steadfast in the knowledge that he has not done anything that would warrant this kind of reaction, this kind of fate that he is now, experiencing. So now we're going to get to Job's cheery, cheery words. Marilyn, Warner, you want to pick up a little bit for us? You got to unmute.
Okay, yeah, I almost forgot to do that.
You got it. Give me these first two paragraphs here, okay?
Okay. Then Job said in reply, if my anguish were weighed, my full calamity laid in the scales, it would be heavier than the sand of the sea. That is why I spoke recklessly. For the arrows of the Almighty are in me. My spirit absorbs their poison. God's terrors are arraigned against me. Does a wild ass bray when he has grass? Does a bull bellow over his fodder? Can what is tasteless be eaten without salt? Does mallow juice have any flavor? I refuse to touch them. They are like foods when I am sick.
Okay, so Job starts off very cheerily. If my anguish were weighed, if all of my mishigas was on the scales, it'd be heavier than the sand of the sea. Oh, Job, that's a little much. But one can't blame him. He's having a rough time. But yikes! Woe is me. Life is terrible, and that's why I'm giving this whole spiel about what's going on. So Job isn't pleased, and he lets that be known. And why is he unhappy? Why is he unhappy? Because God is attacking him. We don't have this language really anywhere else in the Bible, with maybe one or two exceptions of sort of a very aggressively punishing God in this kind of vivid language, right? We get this in Lamentations a little bit more as a point of comparison. You get it maybe in Lamentations, but aside from that, we don't really get it as much. Even in the prophets, maybe a little, but not as much as this. God's like shooting arrows, like God's like a hunter, shooting arrows, and not only they're arrows, but they're poison-tipped arrows. So it's infecting, Job's blood very much with the boils, skin infection or whatever it is, right? So the idea that almost he has this poison coursing through him. Of course he's going to be upset. Of course he's going to be angry and sort of bemoan his fate here. That it's like God is the adversary, right? So it's not like God is acting like a parent here, according to Job, right? God is acting like an antagonizer, right? Which we know because Satan is actually striking him, but God is allowing it. That's what it's like. It's like God is nailing him. God's hitting him pretty hard here. And he has cause to complain, right? Because does, a donkey bray when there's food? No. The donkey has its grass and is very happy, yum, 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 and has its grass. The bull, same thing, right? If the bull has food, he's not going to complain. He's content, living his bull life, eating his food and doing the work, whatever it's going to be. It's fine, right? But that's not what's happening here. Now he has cause to complain because he's being served all this tasteless stuff, this very sort of yucky food and drink that he can't swallow it. You have to sort of think about it that way. It's so much injustice that it can't be swallowed. So he's not going to sit there like a good boy and eat the mashed whatever that's in front of him, this tasteless gruel and mush. And he's not going to smile and eat it, go, oh, thank you, this is delicious. No, it's terrible. It's all terrible stuff. He can't abide it. How much, is Job supposed to swallow in this moment? He's not going to do it anymore. He's fed up, pun sort of intended. He's fed up with all this mishigas. He can't stand it anymore. And so that's sort of where his head's at this point. And again, one can't blame him, right? So he's not going to swallow any of this mishigas that his friends are telling him about. It'll be fine. Like God punishes those who are bad. God heals those who are good and grants them blessings. Just sort of, Job, just get with the program here. And Job, nah, That's not what's happening right now. I have a legitimate gripe. I have a legitimate beef, with God right now, and I'm not going to sweep that under the rug. I have a reason to be upset. I have a reason to complain. Okay, Linda Bilo, you want to pick up a little bit here?
Would that my request were granted. If some God would grant my hope, if that God would consent to crush me, loose his hand and crack me open, even that would comfort me, though I writhed in pain unsparing, for never have I suppressed the Holy One's commands.
Oh, thank you for that. So again, we have this image, right, of Job. That's like, you know what? Just kill me. Like if you're gonna make me suffer so much, just kill me. Get it over with. Why do I have to endure all this suffering? And part of that is because, and you'll see this in the very last sentence here of this paragraph, is that it makes no sense, right? The physical pain is bad enough. The emotional torment is bad enough. That he is physically suffering, he's emotionally suffering, but he's spiritually suffering too. He's psychologically suffering, with all of this, because he doesn't understand why, right? And so why is this happening? What is the meaning behind my suffering? Because not once, and he's sure of it, right? Not once have I suppressed God's commands. Not once have I gone astray here, and not, done the right thing. I have done right, God. So what are you doing to me? Why are all these bad things happening to me? I need an answer. That's what it's going to come down to, right? I need an answer. I need somebody to come, and not my doofus friends, who have nothing new to offer, right? They're playing checkers, and Job is playing chess. They have nothing to offer him that's going to help. He needs an answer from the big guy upstairs. He needs some kind of explanation, and he feels like, frankly, he deserves it, right? An explanation for what's happening to him, because again, he's not going to sit here and take this forever. He's miserable. He's suffering. He's not going to denounce God, but he wants an explanation, right? He's not saying, God, you're terrible, but he's saying, look, this stinks. My situation is terrible, and I want someone to explain this to me, and it ain't going to be you three bozos. I need God to come down and say, hey, this is why this is happening. That's as it unfolds. That's what we're going to get from Job. It doesn't actually say bozos, but it comes pretty close in Hebrew to bozos. Anyway, Linda Bilo, you want to give me one more paragraph here?
Sure. What strength have I that I should endure? How long have I to live that I should be patient? Is my strength the strength of rock? Is my flesh bronze? Truly, I cannot help myself. I have been deprived of resourcefulness. A friend owes loyalty to one who fails, though he forsakes the fear of the Almighty.
I love that part over here. It's really nice. It's actually, the imagery is fantastic. So thank you, Linda. The idea here being that, how long do I have to put up with this? How am I, even as Job, right, who is this estimable and respected man, this man of great resources and wealth and wisdom and morality, this paradigm, right, of virtue. How can I even endure this? I'm not immortal. I'm not made of endless patience, right? Eventually that runs out. I don't have, I'm not a rock. I'm not bronze. I'm a person. I hurt. I bleed. I suffer. And so because this is happening to me, I'm not happy. I'm going to complain about it a bit. I'm going to sort of demand some kind of justification. And my friends who are with me right now, even if, right, I have fallen short somewhere, maybe be a little nicer to me about it, right? A friend owes loyalty to one who fails. I might have screwed up a little bit. He doesn't admit that, of course. But the idea being, I think here it's actually talking about God, right? That God sort of almost owes me something here. If I made a mistake, then tell me, what I did wrong. But I think maybe he's talking to his human friends too. Look, we owe each other, right? We're in relationship. And so even in my moment now that I'm angry, right? And so again, I'm not denouncing God, I'm not cursing God, but I'm unhappy with God, right? I'm expressing my displeasure with God. My friend should back me up, right? My friend should take my side and not God's side. They should see things how I'm experiencing them and get my back, help me out. And sort of be the ones who are lifting me up, not telling me that I must have screwed up. Look at my injustice. Empathize with me, right? Even if you don't necessarily see it my way, empathize with me in my struggles, and don't tell me that I'm a schmo who deserves it. That's not going to help me, at this time. It's a plea, I think, for empathy. And I think, again, a very interesting idea, and why I think this text is actually really good. I think for very relevant to modern times, right? Is I feel like this is a little bit of a tangent, of course, but Job's friends basically show how not to help somebody, how not to be in partnership and relationship with somebody. They're not empathizing with Job; they're lecturing Job. They're not really being there for him in a positive, constructive way. They're rebuking him, and it's going to get harsher as it continues. But they're not trying to listen or understand. They're not being very present. They are very ham-handedly trying to perhaps help, but it's in a way that is not actually of any kind of service to Job. And this is where Job's going to hit him a little bit here. Sharon, you want to pick up over here? As for my friends.
As for my friends, they failed me like a riverbed, wandering off like water in a, how do we pronounce that?
No, wadi.
A wadi?
Yep.
Gloomy on an icy day, covered up with snow. They flow one moment and then they are gone. When it is hot, they flicker away. Their dry courses twist, wander into wasteland, vanish. Caravans from Tema look to them. Processions from Sheba count on them. They are disappointed in their hopes. When they reach the place, they stand aghast. This is how you are to me. At the sight of misfortune, you take fright.
Yeah, it's actually not flight. It actually is fright. It sounds weird though. But yes.
Is it fright? Oh no.
Yeah, it is actually fright. There's not a typo.
Okay.
But yes, but just the language is a little bit off. I love this imagery. It's fantastic. So if you've been to Israel, especially down south, you have wadis. You have these sort of valley rock formations that you can climb down into in dry seasons, and you can't in rainy because there's a lot of water. In fact, it's actually a place of peril. Sometimes it's always very tragic. A couple times a year, someone winds up drowning sort of in a wadi because there's no water, but then all of a sudden there'll be huge rushes of water into the wadi because the rain sort of comes down and it all flows and then it fills up and you can't climb out fast enough. And so it's actually, you have to really know and be with a guide when you're in these wadis. I climbed down into one once many years ago. I think that might not happen anymore, but many years ago I climbed into one, and it was fantastic. I was with my class, at HUC, my year in Israel, and we climbed down this wadi. And as one might guess, from knowing me a little bit, as you will all do, not the most fleet of foot, and I'm not the most outdoorsy kind of guy, but I did it without spraining my ankle, and I was so excited and so happy that I didn't have to be airlifted out of the wadi because I just pictured myself falling, and hurting myself because you're literally climbing down like a little bit, like you're sort of doing this thing. And so I remember this like moment of exaltation that we climbed down the wadi and it was fine and I succeeded, completely forgetting that I had to climb back up. I was like, oh, that's right. There's no elevator up the wadi. I have to, actually do this on the other side of it. A little tangent, but that's a cute story. And it was a nice lesson in the fact that, you go down, you go up, you have other people maybe who can help you get back to where you're supposed to be. But the idea here is that the wadi, when it's filled with water, you almost have to also imagine another metaphor one can use is like an oasis, right? And so when the wadi is filled with water, great. It's a source of support, nourishment. You can drink from it. You can use it for your crops. It's fantastic. He's comparing his friends basically to like the water of a wadi in a way that, if it's there, it's great, but you guys aren't there for me. It's like you're running away, that the waters are not there anymore, right? That at the first sign of trouble, so to speak, you're gone, right? And so people come, from Tema. I remember Eliphaz is a Temaite or whatever it was, right? So, people come to these wadis and expect to find water because they need it. It's a necessity, right? But if it's not there, oh my God, it's really tragic for them. It's a problem. And so Job is saying that's how you're like to me in a way, is that you're supposed to be water, sort of coming to nourish me and help me and support me, right? But at the first sign of trouble, you're running away, because you can't handle, not to get old Jack Nicholson from A Few Good Men, you can't handle the truth. You can't handle what God is laying down here, because I'm telling you the truth and you can't handle it right now. It's blowing your minds, right? You're terrified of this potential reality that sometimes life stinks and sometimes we don't have the answer, and God has to be the one to account for this, because you guys given me nothing. You're not my friends now. You're not acting as my friends. You are just basically running away from the truth of the problem. So you're not supporting me. You're not helping me. You're leaving me dry. You're leaving me unsatiated. And I'm still feeling alone in my grief. I'm really psyched I got to quote that Few Good Men line. That was really fun. Okay, so that was fun for me. Okay, so anyway, Melissa and Tyler, you want to pick up here a little bit when I have said to you?
When I have said to you, give, bribe someone for me out of your wealth, deliver me from the clutches of my enemy, redeem me from violent men. All I ask is that you teach me. Tell me where I am wrong.
Yeah, so give me a little guilt trip here, right? It's like when have I ever told you, give me anything, right? I'm a good guy. I'm a friend of yours. When have I ever came to you and said, give me stuff? Do something for me, bribe some dude, like get me out of trouble. I had never asked anything from you three doofuses. And all I ask you is to be here in this moment with me. And if you have something useful to say it. Tell me where I'm wrong, in this whole thing. I've never asked you guys for anything. So give me a little bit more than what you're giving me. You can keep going, Brahms, you can keep going.
How eloquent are honest words. How then can you teach effectively? Do you think you can teach me with words? Is a speech of despair just wind? Would you also divide an orphan's goods by lot and haggle over your neighbor's property?
Yeah, so what are you doing to me here? You're giving me nothing, right? You're not being honest with all this stuff. It's not helpful. Your words are useless, what you're offering here. Nothing's helpful. And it's like, you're busting my chops here. I'm suffering. I'm miserable. It's like when you go to an orphan and take their stuff and sort of just like randomly take out all their things, or your neighbor's property you don't even own. Would you mess with them about that? Like, what are you doing? You're beyond useless. You're actually hurting me, in this whole situation. It's not helpful at all. You guys want to do one more, Tyler?
Sure. Emily?
Now be so good.
Now be so good as to face me. I will not lie to your face. Come back. You will find no evil here. Come back. Only my vindication. Is there error on my tongue? What am I speaking of except disaster?
There we go. So he's like saying, look, look at me in the eyes. Look at me. Look what's happening to me. Don't turn away. Look at me. I'm going to talk to you and I'm going to speak the truth. I'm going to speak honestly. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to tell you what I'm experiencing. And if you leave and you return, you're not going to find it any different. You're not going to find the whole big bag of sins that I've hidden somewhere, That's not me. That's not your friend Job. Job, is a righteous person, right? So you can look at me, you can turn around, and you can read it. There's no magic trick going on here. All you're going to see is that I'm right. I'm an innocent. I'm blameless. I'm not giving you any falsehoods. There's no mistake on my tongue. And so what am I speaking of here except disaster? And disaster being the righteous person, right, who suffers. Disastrous, because once that happens, everything that we think we know about the world, it explodes, or maybe less violently, it goes away. And we have to think of a new way of viewing the world, a new kind of a relationship with God. My friends, it has been a fun hour. See, you can even make Job a little bit of fun. And so we're going to pause on our friend Job for a week. Next week is going to be a lot of fun. This is a cheap plug. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do the apocryphal tale of Judith. I'm not sure if anyone's ever read Judith, but it is an interesting book. And it is actually why, in some circles, mozzarella sticks are also Hanukkah food. So,
Was it fried?
Fried with the cheese. It's actually the cheese that's important. And so it is a wine and cheese kind of night. And so, during this Torah study, I'm probably going to have a cheeky Merlot with me and a little bit of cheese. So to celebrate reading Judith. So I invite you to do the same. If you'd like to grab a little wine, little cheese, and we'll read a really fun and gory story together. But it really is. It's a fascinating book. And it's one that wasn't put in the Bible. It's an extra biblical tale. The Catholics have it in their canon, but the Jews and Protestants do not. But it has been, retained. And so just like the books of the Maccabees. And so it's a very interesting Hanukkah sort of book to read about a very different hero that we have. It's a very feminist. I would say it's a feminist story. Maybe you'll disagree, but at least it has, for what it's worth, a female heroine in the story. And I think that in itself, makes it special and interesting, because of those male-dominated Maccabee books. Here we get something a little bit different. And anytime we can include wine and cheese in a Torah study, that's never a bad thing, in this rabbi's humble opinion. So with that all said, we'll catch up next week. But please remember, Friday night, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a great service. I'm really excited about having all the kids participate. The Cantor, again, a cheap plug. The Cantor has done just an amazing job setting up really a lot of this service and working with the kids and filming. And so we're going to have a lot of sort of fun things for the service on that end. And then if you haven't registered yet and there's still space, we have that Saturday in-person Havdalah and Hanukkah menorah lighting. So please look out for that as well. Okay?
Hey, thank you, Rabbi. That was
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye,
thank you all so much. Love
Bye,
seeing you.
everyone.
Happy Hanukkah.
Have a happy Hanukkah. Enjoy.
Did Benji finally go to sleep?
Oh, yeah.
I think he has gone to sleep. He was pounding at the door a little earlier, but I think he has gone to bed.
Okay, that's good.
But I think he has gone to bed.
Okay.
Good.
We'll see how long it stays that way, but I think he's gone to bed.
Okay, have a good night, everybody. Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
See you
Great
next
seeing
time.
everybody.
Bye.
Love starting with you. Okay, bye,
I like
everybody.
your background.
Oh, yes, a little Simpsons for us today. Okay, have a great night, everybody.
Stay well, stay safe.
You too. Stay well, stay safe.